Hey, we got a new sponsor. Welcome to Cases and Rugged Gear Outfitters in El Cajon. If you need a case to protect or transport your firearm, Cargo is the place to go. They got cases for your pistols, rifles, shotguns, and a whole lot more. And when I say more, that includes cases for your photo gear, your drone, your audio gear, your watches. And if you need a case for something special, just bring it into the store. I'm sure they'll be able to hook you up. 423 Broadway in El Cajon, or you can visit their website at cargostores.com.
Guess what I'm getting a custom case for?
Your watch.
The watches.
Well, how many are you buying? Oh, one case for all your watches.
One case for all the watches.
Wow.
Cargo, guys, is very, very cool.
If you go check them out.
Please do. They're in El Cajon. They're in the same location where El Cajon Gun Exchange used to be.
Okay.
Remember those guys
okay.
behind Santana's?
In the same building?
Over by, in the exact same location.
Okay, all right.
So if you go on Instagram, if you go on Gun Owners Radio's Instagram, we were visiting Cargo, and I found this really cool case just for pistols. Mm-hmm. And so I said, hey, let's quickly show this thing. And it's got 3 sleeves in it, 2 pistols per sleeve, so that's 6. You're transporting it in like a briefcase size case, and then it's got a locked area for your mags. So check it out there. But everybody, I got to tell you, struck gold, man. Cargo is very, very cool. So check out Cargo.
One? You know, I went in and I was looking at the site after I saw you post that video, and I think that was amazing. So you can have all your mags prepped and loaded.
I knew.
I'm going to go get one.
That's what I just said. Have you bought one yet?
Not yet.
I didn't buy that one, but I did buy.
So I'm
bought a container.
I'm gonna go get that one, because if you don't know your firearms, if you don't have a CCW, and even then if you do, it's only good on 2. But beyond that, you have to have your firearms transported, unloaded in a locked container.
And those cases are meet all the requirements.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the one in particular that he's speaking about has this flap to where you can lock the firearms, then have the ammo in a separate compartment, all in the same compact case. Yeah. Ammo prepped and loaded, and you're compliant. Because the firearms are locked separately from the ammo.
They had a freeze dryer machine for people who wanted like freeze dry food and keep it for 20 years, that kind of thing. They had dry bags. Check out Cargo. It's a very cool find.
Because it's Cargo and a whole lot more.
Cargo and a whole lot more. Yeah, and Cargo, of course, stands for Cases and Rugged Gear. Cargo Outfitters. Cases and Rugged Gear Outfitters. Right. They're in El Cajon. Hey, so this weekend I wanted to touch on, I just got back from
busy.
Yeah, Gun Rights Policy Conference. It was 2.5 days. Thank you so much to the Second Amendment Foundation. Thank you so much to Lauren Hill, who's works for Second Amendment Foundation, and of course their executive director Adam Kraut. You guys put on a fantastic show. Thank you to Alan Gottlieb, who was here, and it was so nicely done. The reception was beautiful. The speakers were awesome. It was all very, very interesting. Friday was like media day, so anybody that's got a YouTube channel, or they're a writer, or they do videos or anything, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, you were there for media.
I
day
was
too, right?
I was there all 3 days. Correct.
Yeah. And I thought it was great. I took a lot away from the speakers. I got to tell you, it was drinking from a fire hose, and some of them were super, super interesting. Mm-hmm. I was fascinated. But thank you, everybody, and thank you, Second Amendment Foundation. They gave some awards, and they gave San Diego County Gun Owners the Grassroots Activists Award of the Year. Wow, which was very, very cool. I thought everybody had a good time. What'd you think?
I think it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like you're saying, the information was so plentiful, and even if there were aspects that weren't really something that interested you, it was really fantastic to have the opportunity to be in the room with so many like-minded people from all over the place, and really just to see that support and to realize we're not alone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't the first time they were in California, but it was the first time they were in San Diego, and I think it went so well that it's not going to be the last time they were in San Diego.
Good.
So they have this every year for, I think, 39 years. They've been around for 50 years.
Wow.
And so I'm really, really glad that they added us to the lineup.
That's
really
excellent.
Great. Yeah, got a lot of good feedback. Hey, Cheap Ammo San Diego. Cheap Ammo San Diego. It's a brand new shop. Same folks who own or related to, I don't know the exact relationship, so maybe I shouldn't say so, but they've been in the firearms industry for a while. I wanted to give them a shout out and a congratulations. Cheap Ammo San Diego on 120 North Pacific Street in San Marcos. So go to San Marcos, go to 120 North Pacific Street. All they do is sell ammo. And extremely good prices, a lot of availability. Right now, there's such an ammo shortage, and ammo's so expensive. Go check these guys out, Cheap Ammo San Diego. And if you want to see their website, it's cheapammosandiego.com. And they're open Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 6, Saturday 9 to 3. So check those guys out. Wanted to give them a quick shout out because they're friends of the show and such wonderful people.
Cool.
Yeah. So today is all about our special guest, Carl DeMaio. How are you, Carl?
Doing well.
And my co-host, Brittany Sandoval. That's Carl DeMaio. Oh, my God. That's Carl DeMaio.
What's it like? You know what? What's it like being recognizable? You know what I mean? What's it like walking around a county where pretty much everybody knows who you are? I can't imagine that was part of the plan growing up.
Well, when people smile, it's nice, but when people are throwing produce, you kind of just joking about that.
Catch that head of lettuce.
Some would probably want. Look, I'm a volunteer, and just like everyone else in our movement. And when people, say good things, it's a good reflection of all the hard work that our entire movement has put in, our grassroots contributors, our volunteers. When people say bad things, it's because those people just simply don't understand the lunacy of this stage.
That's when you need to stop and you have to explain it to them if they'll listen.
You try, but you also recognize that you're not going to win everyone over. There's always going to be people who are bamboozled or ignorant on things and maybe have a different point of view. But I believe there actually is a consensus in this state. There's a silent majority, but we have a broken political system. And as a result, that silent majority is not having its voice heard, and it's not translating into policy. So, again,
you've been working on that broken political system harder than just anybody. I mean, truly anybody. I mean, all the things that you've done in your career, above and beyond, when you were city council member and running for office, above and beyond all that. And of course, we're going to talk about reform and everything. The propositions you've taken on more battles than I honestly can't think of anyone that's taken on more battles than you.
Then you should have.
It is a thoroughly corrupt system. And I know that those are strong words, but it actually fits the problem that we're having. And California has the worst problems of any state in the country: the highest cost of living, a crime wave, record homelessness, failing schools, an open border. All of the issues that bug us, that plague us, that burden us are because obviously we have bad policies, but we also have really wretchedly bad politicians. And as much as I want to blame Democrats for having bad ideas, I must also blame Republican establishment elected officials who have not bothered to fight for us, who've done nothing more than surrender year after year. And that's why I call it a broken political system, because the voice of the people, it's out there. When I talk to voters, I'm seeing 70% agreement on we need to make California more affordable. We need to arrest the criminals.
People.
we need to make sure that kids learn the basics rather than social agendas and personal pronouns. I mean, 70% of Californians, which means a bipartisan consensus, agree that we're on the wrong track and that we need to fix things, and they agree on some common sense policies that we should be adopting. But our politicians refuse to give us what we want. It's because they're not listening to us. They're listening to their special interest masters who are benefiting from the broken system, who are taking our money, who are laughing while our problems get worse. But oh, by golly, the system works for them. And so, look, I think we need a good old-fashioned intervention with California state government. Every government, to some extent, is problematic.
That's what I was going to ask.
But California has literally jumped the shark on how bad it is.
Is it a uniquely California problem? Or is there a uniquely San Diego problem? Or is this just kind of par for its course, and this is where we live, so we got to deal with it in our backyard?
So I think California, when people, why is California so screwed up? I think first and foremost, it's because we don't have two functioning political parties. At least in other states, the Republican Party is willing to fight, and there is more talent pool to draw from, and they have more balanced resources to put up candidates and wage campaigns. We don't have that here in California. The Republican Party of California is a dumpster fire of incompetence, cowardice, and absolute lack of principle, and that's on a good day. When you take a look at the other problem we're having is we don't have honest media. with very few exceptions, KCBQ being one of them, we do not have balanced media. Look, the media is always going to be wired to be liberal, center left. But at least in most states, you got one station or one outlet that is center right.
And we're losing. It feels like we're losing
and
that.
we don't have that. We don't have that. And so there's been some ownership changes recently that have made it even worse. But we have a unique problem in California, but I have not given up hope. In fact, I am bullish on being able to take back this state and restore a little balance and sanity.
Hey, gun laws are confusing, and let me tell you, it's that way by design. There are so many that it's overwhelming to both law-abiding people and businessmen. So, who do you turn to for guidance? That would be John Dillon. Not only is John one of the attorneys on critical gun right cases like Miller versus Bonta, but he was featured speaker at this week's Gun Rights Policy Conference. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. Put his number on your phone right now, 760-642-7150. That's John Dillon's California firearms lawyer, 760-642-7150.
Hey, shout out to superfan Mike White. Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure meeting you this weekend at Gun Rights Policy Conference. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Carl, I was one of the speakers pointed out, and I've been thinking about it ever since. I haven't fully formed an opinion or researched or really thought about this, but he said something interesting. He said, of all the right of center causes, that you can think of, 20 years later, 30 years later, Second Amendment is really the one that we've made real progress on. Like everything else, all the other things that the right of center tends to care about has either remained stagnant or moved backwards. And he talked about how important it is for people to care about subjects. And I don't think there's nobody else that attacks things that people care about as well as you do. Where you actually go for the heart and say, hey, this is something that real people actually care about. You're not up in the ether and kind of talking about, this nebulous, we all got to get together and hold hands. Whatever. You actually go, hey, this matters, this cares, this is right, this is wrong. And now you're running for office. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, first on the observation about the Second Amendment, don't thank the Republican Party nationally for progress on the Second Amendment. Those politicians have really not explained to people why we have the Second Amendment. I always say it's not the right to bear arms. That's the mechanism by which something more important is guaranteed. Second Amendment is the human right of self-defense. And we don't have people on the center right in office, with rare exception, that are able to articulate the reason for the Second Amendment, the benefit of having the Second Amendment, and, of course, combating the outright lies and misinformation put out by the anti-gun lobby on a daily basis in the media. So don't thank politicians for progress on the Second Amendment. You can thank the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah.
That's where we've made the progress.
Big progress.
But we're not making enough progress in changing people's perception of why they need a Second Amendment right of self-defense, why guns are not the problem, but rather actually part of the solution for keeping us safe. We still have a lot of work to do there, is changing the minds. Because if you don't change those minds, you could have a changed court down the line, and all this great progress could be undone. So I take the same approach, though, that I just articulated on the Second Amendment to the issues we fight on here in California, which is we take a principled stand on the 70% issues. Everyone agrees that people should have a human right of self-defense. Even the people who say they're against the Second Amendment. Yeah. When you start out a conversation, should every human being have the right of self-defense? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, then you kind of say, well, you know what we're talking about, right? Yeah. We're talking about the Second Amendment. That's what we're really talking about.
That's when the but comes out.
And then it's just like, but that's where the opening of the door happens. Because you meet them on a principle that they say they agree with. And then the challenge is easier to articulate why the actual firearm, the right to bear arms, any arm, is an extension of securing that human right of self-defense. So we look at 70% issues. Do you think the government should take more of your money or less?
So a 70% issue is something that 70% of people
that we shouldn't be paying $2.50 more per gallon of gas in California than the national average. Here's a grand concept. I mean, I'm really shooting the moon on this one. I want us to be just as screwed up as the average state when it comes to things.
Right.
I want the gentleman's C. Let's just be as wasteful and inefficient as the average state, and you would be saving $2.50 per gallon of gas. But let's make it more real than that. What is $2.50 per gallon of gas? What does that translate into? Well, if you have a 20-gallon tank, $2.50 is $50 for a tank of gas. It's $50. $2.50. That's real money. Now, no, wait. If you gas up once a week, most of us gas up once a week. Some more. People who are poor gas up more because they live farther away from their job centers. That's $2,600 a year, and that is before you earn the money and pay taxes to actually have $2,600 in your pocket, which means you have to basically earn about $3,200 just to pay for the penalty of living in California for having such a blanked up government out here. So that's just one example. How about let's pay the average cost of utility bills in the country? Well, then you can take your SDG&E bill and rip it in half because you would save 50 to 60% on your utility rates. How about we just pay, the average? So if you do the averages, I actually have a website for our Policy Institute, the Transparency Foundation. And we've actually partnered with Not Me California on our most recent report, which is explaining why the Gifford Center is a lying sack of you-know-what when it comes to gun control and their, quote, scorecard. But we'll get to that in a minute. But when you take a look at the cost for a middle-class family in San Diego, the cost of California, the penalty cost of all the corruption and mandates and tax increases and cost of living increases, a middle-class family has to earn $130,000 for a family of four in San Diego County. That's considered middle class, 130. But their cost of living penalty for an average cost budget for a family is $26,800 per year, more than if they were paying the average of what it would cost bread, groceries, health insurance, daycare, car insurance, all these elements. So, it's even more expensive to buy an automobile in California, as Mr. Stahl knows.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So just to illustrate, just so I know I'm following you, take a family of four, put them in San Diego, take a family of four and put them somewhere else in the U.S.
Just the average
Indiana
state.
Or wherever,
any average state.
And they do the exact same thing for 12 months. They buy the exact same stuff,
exact
same amount of whatever. San Diego, you're paying
$26,800. Okay, here's the thing. I love pointing out just the obvious, but no Republican politician does this. Of course, the media and the Democrats don't do this in California. Ever heard of the $5 footlong at Subway?
Yeah,
okay,
not anymore.
Actually, yes, there's still $5 footlongs across the country, but Subway no longer runs their TV ads nationally with $5 footlong because they know in California it's $7.49.
Yeah.
This is the insanity that we have to deal with. I had another supporter of mine let me know that his laptop broke when he was on a business trip. He was thinking of buying the laptop, so he went to a New Jersey Costco, okay? And New Jersey is also a blue state, but they went into New Jersey Costco, and he found a laptop he wanted, and it cost like $1,200. He's like thinking, well, I don't want to pack it in the bag, and I'll just buy it when I get home. So he then went to Carmel Mountain Ranch here in San Diego, found the same exact laptop, $220 more expensive for the same damn laptop. Jeez. And he said, well, why is this? I said, well, Costco's not dumb. When you have smash and grab robberies and people are stealing things in Costco, they've got to pass the costs on and the cost of operating, labor, and all this other nonsense. And so I actually give them credit for penalizing the consumers in California for their stupid decisions when they vote. Now, again, it's not our fault because most voters don't really understand the awful policies of the politicians that they're putting into office because they're not getting an honest media and they're certainly not getting competition. So, again, I just use that for cost of living. I could talk about crime, failing schools, homelessness, the whole 9 yards. And you can trace it back to bad policies. And why are the policies bad? It's not because these politicians are dumb, although some of them are.
Yeah, I can vouch for that.
Yes, true. It's because they're corrupt. And I don't use that word lightly. But when people say, well, why did we spend $4 billion on homelessness and have a worse homeless problem to boot? Because rich developers are getting all that money for their $1 million per pop condos rather than giving the money to social workers and psychiatrists and drug counselors and mental health therapists to actually get to the root cause. And so when you follow the money, you will find the campaign contribution going to the politician. Ultimately, they're getting a piece of the corruption here, and they're being given a pass. And so I'm sick of it. I'm done with it. And I think most Californians are. But they will change their voting when they understand the nature of the problem. And that's where our obligation, our challenge is.
So my only, and I agree with you 1,000%, but what surprises me, and you're right, the media is basically corrupt.
Corrupt or lazy.
But they will spend that other $260 for that laptop knowing that they could have got it cheaper.
Most people don't know.
You don't think?
In California. No, they don't. Most people just think, so for example, on gas, instead of Republicans saying it's all the mandates and the taxes and the fees, they allow Gavin Newsom to go out there and say the reason why your gas is $2.50 more per gallon in California is because of price gouging by big oil.
That's right.
Now, let me tell you right now, I don't trust big corporations. They're always going to try to get more money. And,
They have stockholders.
You have to be as concerned about big corporations as you are about big government. But that being said, even with their inherent desire to price gouge, are you telling me that only in California the big oil companies price gouge? Because that's what you'd have to swallow in order to buy that nonsense, because the motivation would be to price gouge across the country. So how do you explain the 250? Bad policies by Gavin Newsom and California politicians.
Well, and if you go to a gas pump, and I was there the other day, it gave a breakdown of taxes.
But that's not true.
I know. But when it got down to the bottom one, variable.
Yeah.
Variable? Variable?
Just whatever they feel at the time.
The taxes are $1.43 per gallon just on tax mandates. And the other $2.50, part of the $2.50 is all the regulations and imposed.
Insane. You know, a lot of gun owners complain about California's horrible gun controls, but their laws, that is. But if a gun owner voted, then we wouldn't have this horrible gun control problem. So make sure your voice is heard this November. Your vote makes a difference. And by the way, that was in capital letters in city and county elections. Your vote has the most impact. That's why we need your help to get more Pro 2A officials elected. Get the San Diego County Gun Owners Voter Guide and help get pro-gun officials elected. Download it today at sdcgo.org/voter guide. Get it today. Share it with a friend.
So we're here with Carl DeMaio, and you are running for the assembly in district. What's the district number again?
District 75. It's everything east of the 15 freeway. Goes all the way north to Riverside, the Riverside border. So it picks up Fallbrook and Bonsall, and then goes all the way down to the U.S.-Mexico border. So I will be the only Republican representing a border district in the state legislature.
Interesting. Now, when the most common response I've gotten since you announced about a year ago now.
3 days before filing, I made the decision to run for this seat, and I'll tell you why in just a moment.
Yeah, I want to absolutely. But the most common response I get from people is, "Wow, Republicans must be really happy that you decided to, come off the air and run for office." I mean, they're just like, "Wow, this is great." They must feel blessed. Really, truly, people that. Maybe they aren't politicos, maybe they are kind of involved, but that is by and large the reaction I get from people when I talk about the election. But there's some folks who are Republican who aren't a fan or aren't they're criticizing your choice to run.
You mean elected officials? Yes.
What do you have to say about that?
So the activists, the voters who are Republican, independent, even some conservative Democrats, they're excited. But I think elected officials, Republican elected officials, some of them are upset because, we're one of the only groups in town, Reform California, that holds them accountable on the issues we care about. Another group that holds them accountable, San Diego County gun owners.
Yeah.
And they're not terribly happy with you either.
Yeah, some of
and
them.
so, look, politicians don't like to be called out when they do bad things. They like to get away with it. And so I recently had a group of elected Republicans who signed a letter condemning me, and I started laughing. I said, you know what the common thread amongst all of these folks are? We have called out every single one of them for backing a tax increase. And presently, we are actively campaigning against 6 of the tax increases that they've all put on the ballot. And so, of course, they're going to attack us because we're not letting them have what they want, which is A, a free pass with the voters, and B, we're not letting them have a higher tax burden on their residents to get their money. They don't like that. They don't like to be called out when they break these principles. And so my voter guide, they're afraid of, because the Republican Party of San Diego's voter guide, their endorsements have been swampy. They've had basically horse trading behind closed doors. They anoint each other. They say, hey, you vote for my endorsement, I'll vote for yours. But there's been no real holding accountable of candidates or elected officials. Our voter guide does not do horse trading. We are very clear, just like I know San Diego County gun owners is. If you violate these commitments and principles, you will lose our endorsement. Full stop. Okay? And so, for example, Mayor Bill Wells of El Cajon supported a massive tax increase in 2022. And I'm the patron saint of second chances sometimes. So I will sit down.
What was the form of what kind of tax increase?
Sales tax increase.
Which
is a regressive tax.
Okay, so you go into a store and
you have to pay a higher sales
7
tax.
or 8% or whatever it is. He wanted to increase that significantly.
Correct.
Okay.
And so we defeated that tax increase in 2022. We had to spend money to do so, which meant that we have less money to spend on other important fights. And it was put on the ballot by Republicans. There was no Democrat that put that on the ballot. You can blame the Republicans of El Cajon, their city council, a unanimous vote to put a tax increase on the ballot. So then he came to me and said, I'd like to run for Congress. I'm worried about my primary challenger. Would you endorse me? Because if your endorsement, would clear the field or help me get my primary. I said, well, Bill, let's talk about that tax increase. I need a commitment from you that you'll never raise taxes again. That you learned your lesson. And he said, I will not raise taxes. I said, okay, great. Well, on that basis,
before you go
I'll
further,
give you my endorsement.
Before you go further, when you do talk to them, because taxes and Republicans, I think it's even tighter than taxes and guns. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean Republicans and guns.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Republicans
yes.
And taxes, they're more comfortable being against tax increases than they even are with guns.
If they could get away with stabbing you in the back, some of these elected officials would do so because they're more interested in the lobbyists and the labor union bosses who are dangling campaign cash in front of them. And that's what Bill Wells wanted. And that's what these tax increasers wanted. They wanted the support of lobbyists and labor unions because they know if they get more money from you, where does it go? They're contractors, they're consultants, they're pay hikes and pension spikes. And so the politician wants you to think that they're not going to raise your taxes, but in fact, that's what they've done. When Bill Wells said, yeah, I made a mistake, I shouldn't do that, and he gave me his commitment, well, after the primary, 1 month after the primary, he said, we're going to raise taxes. And I was like, you SOB. And I said, you have lost your endorsement. We pulled it. We will never endorse him ever again for anything. And frankly, no voter should be supporting him because the guy is a liar. The guy has no principles. And he'd be willing to make a commitment and then break it within a matter of days. And we don't accept that. Again, people that say, well, Carl, you're really hard-nosed. Again, on my list, there's always sinners, saints, and savables. People can make a mistake. It's okay to make a mistake and say, I screwed up. I won't do that again. There's some good politicians who've made mistakes and they say, you know what? I heard from the voters. I reconsider my position and I've learned the lesson. We should accept that. We should embrace it because, that person is going to be a hell of a lot better than someone who says, no, it's not a mistake and I want more taxes and I'm going to do more bad things. That being said, when they lie to you, you can never trust another thing they have to say. Tomorrow they could say they learned their mistake and they'll change. Once a liar, always a liar. You can't trust them. And so no, there are some politicians that did lose endorsements, and the Republican Party of San Diego rubber stamped. Well, guess what? In the March primary, working with the San Diego County gun owners, because I know you had a similar issue with the lack of integrity at the Republican Central Committee.
And
we got together and said, we're not going to back these bozos anymore. We're going to throw them off, and we're going to have our own slate of conservative activists. And we won 41 out of 45 of the board seats in the March primary. Here's the problem. Our reform-minded board members do not take office until December 1st. So the old guard that ruined the party's brand and screwed everything up, they're still in charge. And you know, what I have to say to them is, at the very least, after getting your rear ends handed to you by the voters, ruining the party, ruining the brand, putting us in financial straits, losing so many elections, after all of this, the most decent thing you could do is go quietly. But no, they're not going quietly. On the way out, they've decided to burn the whole place down. They're actually colluding with Democrats now against me in my race.
What does that look like? Talk about that.
They literally are taking Democrat money to launder it through the Republican Party locally because they overdrew their bank account in July. So the Democrats went to them and said, hey, if you start attacking Carl, we'll give you the money to do it. So they received $50,000 from a Sacramento dark money super PAC. And that money arrived on September 22nd. And then on September 7th, they transferred, just this past week, they transferred $35,000 of that $50,000 to my opponent. And so they're going out and courting Democrats. My opponent is now funded by Democrat activists.
This dark money, you found out that the source were Democrats that would normally.
Oh, yeah. No. The thing is that what I want everyone to do is when you get those mailers in your mailbox, look at the fine print, find out who paid for it. And then I actually have a video up on our website, my YouTube channel from last week, where I said, here's how you could look up who's funding those mailers. And there's a website, a state website, where people have to report within 24 hours, what they spent money on and who gave them money to do it.
Right.
Nobody does this homework, but when you follow the money, you'll find utility companies, insurance companies, the people who support the gas tax increase, Democrats, the union bosses, Sacramento lobbyists, all are funneling money in to try to defeat us. And here's why. They're right about one thing. I'm going up there to put a boot up their rear end. I'm going up there with a big old spotlight, and we're going to shine a light on what they're doing, and they are terrified of the fact that we're willing to do that. And they got me clocked a mile away. But I think the voters are going to want that sort of change in Sacramento. And when we start getting a real voice of opposition, then I think you're going to start seeing a change in votes on legislation.
So why did you decide, you filed 3 days before the filing. Tell us about that decision.
Got fed up with Republicans surrendering. We've got so many good Republicans elected to various seats. And then when they get there, I liken it to that little cartoon. I think it was in the 70s, 60s, 80s. With the little devil on one shoulder?
Right.
And the devil sits there and says, do it, do it, do it. Well, those are the lobbyists, labor union bosses, the Sacramento swamp, okay? They say, do it, do it, do it. And there's a similar swamp at every city hall. And that's what happened to Bill Wells. He had some lobbyists and labor union bosses, do it, do it, do it. They don't have the angel whispering in the other ear saying, no, stop, don't do it. And so I think we need to get more principled people into the conversation to give them backbone and to force those changes. Plus, I realized that if we really wanted to take the Reform California movement to that next level, we have to have not just the outside infrastructure, but the inside as well. So everything continues for me. We still have Reform California. That's going to continue 100%, not stepping down from that. We still have our daily show. It's on YouTube. It's on iHeartRadio app. The only thing I had to give up legally was the AM radio signal.
Right.
And, we've seen declining listenership on AM, but people are now doing digital. And even this show is simulcast on digital platforms.
Yeah.
And a lot of people listen and watch it throughout the next several weeks.
You had to give up the radio program to run for office.
Because you can't get free airtime under FCC rules. But everything else is the same. And we'll add an elected official office so we can introduce legislation and actually have case managers work on problems for people. But I think that what this showed was the model I used for reforming San Diego city government and saving it from bankruptcy and stopping the tax increases and the service cuts then, we actually fixed the city and put it back on the right path. Now, back in the toilet because we've had some really bad politicians down at City Hall since I've left over 12 years ago. But what it shows is that when you have both an inside and outside game, you can actually affect change, and that's why I made the decision. It was not an easy decision, which is why I really didn't start thinking about doing this until Thanksgiving of last year, and then ultimately decided 3 days beforehand. I let my 2 other Republican opponents know I'm going to be running for this in case you decide not to run. I wanted to make sure I gave you a heads up. And one of them said, "You're absolutely right. I want to support you." And the other one said, "No, I deserve the seat." I said, "Well, no one deserves a seat. We'll let the people decide who deserves a seat." It's his decision to continue to run. I think it was a wasteful exercise. But he's now willing to go do the deal with the devil, the Democrats and the lobbyists and the labor unions, to try to win a job. This is probably going to be one of the worst jobs I've ever held. And that's fine and good, all right? It's a necessary job to do, and more people need to be willing to go into bad jobs like elected office in order to do the right thing.
Hey, if you want tactical gear at an affordable price, check out Condor Outdoors. Whether you're a military professional, law enforcement, or just simply an avid outdoorsman, Condor products are designed to be versatile, durable, and above all, reliable. So if you're looking for the best in tactical gear, look no further than Condor Outdoor. Use code GOR for a 15% discount off their website, condoroutdoor.com. Use code GOR for 15% discount and get there before Alicia.
So we're talking to Carl DeMaio, and I'm so glad that we're talking about this, Carl. Sometimes I want to clarify for folks, because sometimes when I say, "Hey, you know what, guys, don't give your money to the Republican Party. We need the help. They're not helping us out this election." People, they misunderstand what's going on, and that's partially on me. I probably haven't explained it well enough. They think I'm talking about everybody who's registered as a Republican, every Republican voter, everybody who identifies as a Republican, everyone who is a Republican. We're talking about the Central Committee. We're talking about, 45?
The bureaucracy. We're talking about the party intelligentsia, the insiders, it's about 3. We're not talking about voters.
It's about 3 dozen people who run the
45,
party. 45 people
45
who run the party.
They have a board of 45. Then they have a chair and a staff member. But
of which you're one of. I mean, it's not.
No, I'm no longer
a
member of the Central Committee.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I stepped down because number one, I moved my voting residency. But number two, I felt these people are so embarrassing. To be associated with this brand is heinous.
So how do we change the brand? Like, okay, I'm very proud of the effort. It was, that we combined.
We have a good board coming in. I'm so excited about the new board, and I will be rejoining the board as an assembly member on December 1st.
After you win, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about what can people expect? Like what happens going forward with a brand new Central Committee? What are we hoping for?
It is completely up to the Central Committee members. And, well, I will say this. One of the things about these elected officials in town, and I'm talking about the Brian Joneses of the world, the Joel Andersons, the Andrew Hayeses, the elected officials who are on Central Committee, the Darrell Ices, they go there and they tell these Central Committee members, this is what you're going to do. Because we are the elected officials, we've spoken. Hold on a second, Darrell, Brian, Joel, your vote is the same as the grassroots activist who was elected in their area. Every supervisorial district has 9 board members elected by the voters. And their vote is the same weight as Congressman Isa's and Senator Brian Jones and Carl DeMaio's. It's an equal vote. How dare you treat these people as second-class board members? And so the first thing I want people to know is that I'm going to encourage, as one of 45, the new board members to clean house. There's so much rot and so much dysfunction. I want to change the culture. I hope they agree. They should fire the staff, get rid of the chairman, clean house top to bottom, tooth to tail, come up with a new plan, new bylaws, a new structure. And if they do that, I think that the voters will start seeing a change. But they have to show change. And so I say, 90-day increments, 180-day increments. Frankly, they got to go to you, Michael, a coalition partner that was abused by the old guard at the Republican Party. They didn't care about your concerns about Second Amendment, and as it related to the endorsements.
Well, as long
And
as
they
I
didn't
was
even
doing
want-
what they told me.
Yeah, as long as you carried their water.
Yeah,
Yes.
then
You were
I
their
was like,
errand boy,
great. But
and
then
you
when I
should
said, hey,
you should
guys,
support the same people.
we need something in return, it just turned into a
you
whole
had a
mess.
you had a legitimate concern, and instead of saying, okay, here's a coalition partner, part of Team Freedom, valued coalition partner who's been there for a lot of fights that we've been involved in and helped a lot of our candidates. If he has a problem, we now need to address the problem. Instead of treating you with respect. Now, it may have been that they may have still decided on an opposite course of action, but if you value the relationship, you treat the other partner with the dignity and respect and value that they are to be afforded. That didn't happen. And so they need to go to you and other groups and restore those relationships.
Let me make a point about that real quick, because you and I have a great working relationship. Reform.
We don't always agree on things, which is very rare, but when we don't,
Right.
it doesn't blow up the relationship.
That's where I'm going. I've had comments from Republican leaders, and they say, "Oh, well, Mike, you're lockstep with Carl." And I say, I'm not lockstep with Carl. Carl is supportive of San Diego County gun owners.
Right.
You and I have agreed on almost everything. We've had very few disagreements. But when we do, and there have been a couple of key disagreements, but when we have them, we have the respect for and the communication with each other to be able to say, hey, here's what's going on, here's why. We're not going to be able to agree on this one, but the other 95% we're going to be able to. I want to hear you out. Maybe there's some wiggle room here. Maybe there's some compromise or something we can do.
I can think of
they don't do that.
Most
though.
recently, there's a candidate that you are very passionate about.
Yeah.
And
Have to be. We have to be.
Yeah.
We don't have a
And-
choice. We
and-
have to be, and we want to be.
And we were very torn between two candidates, your candidate and another candidate. And we had concerns and praise for both candidates. And when we knew we were, maybe going to endorse against your candidate or not endorse your candidate and stay neutral, and ultimately we decided just simply to stay neutral. I went to you and said, I value our relationship. So here's what I'm dealing with. Here are my problems. Yeah. Here's how I can get to yes for your candidate. Here's how I might get to yes on the opposing candidate and why. So here's the process. Let's see if we can walk through it together. And we did.
Yeah.
Now, the destination did not reach a joint endorsement, but that's okay. What was important is that we heard each other out and we preserved the relationship and we treated each other with respect and honesty the whole time. We kept each other completely abreast of everything that was going on. Again, we are not always going to have unanimity of agreement on Team Freedom, but what you need is the relationship and the trust, and that was broken by the old guard at the Republican Party because guess what? They're not principle-based. They are only in it for themselves, their own political careers, and the voters saw that and threw them out of office. So it is my hope that on December 1st, we have a brand new guard, a brand new culture and approach at the local Republican Party. I will not even for a moment hold out hope at the state Republican Party that they're going to pull their head out of their rear end. And the national party if Trump wins, and I believe he will, God willing, I think that he will make sure that the national party does what's necessary. But these political parties, even if you agree with, in theory, the party and you're a member of the party, don't presume that the people in charge are actually doing their job and doing it with integrity and vigor. That's what's happened in California. That's what's happened in San Diego. We have to first fix these Republican institutions so that we can actually have an opposition party. And Reform California and outside groups like San Diego County Gun Owners, we are also the voice of reform. And if they're not going to do it, we can certainly do it, and we have been. But I think that we're going to be able to get them on board.
Let me ask you. So one of the it's a little bit hypocritical of the Central Committee and leadership, some of the leadership in the Republican Party, but a lot of the pushback I get is, hey, we're kind of a mechanism. We ballot access, and we just want to get Republicans elected. We don't stand up for individual issues. We don't get involved in individual issues.
I don't know who told you that, but I think that's absurd.
I hear it a lot. But then when they're talking to voters, they're like, "Oh, we stand for this, we stand for that, we stand for this."
Oh, sure.
And I go,
The
well, "Wait a
gold
minute,
standard. No, please.
Well, okay, well, I need you to stand for the Second Amendment right now." And they go, "Oh no, that's not our job. We just get Republicans elected. Doesn't matter." You know what I mean?
Bad,
so do you think,
bad
and
point of view.
you've kind of already answered it, but go into a little bit of a talk about, should the Central Committee take positions on, very specific.
The Central Committee should do two things when making endorsements. Number one, it should hold the candidate or elected official accountable for their beliefs or their voting record. Because Republican voters expect the Central Committee to do that. Because the voters are not going to be able to know because they're too busy. They expect the Central Committee is going to vet candidates before they give an endorsement, rather than taking cash from consultants to buy the endorsement, which is what is happening most of these endorsements. Secondly, as they're holding these people accountable, they should go to valued coalition partners and say, hey, we're thinking about endorsing. Do you have a thought about this candidate? Where are you going to come down? Because in order to win elections, the best thing is to get the coalition to agree on who we're endorsing. You see, the left is not dumb. The left doesn't, split their endorsement. They get behind the Looney Tune and they all unite. And if there's two Looney Tunes, they have a process for getting it down to one Looney Tune. On the right, we don't do that, and we need to, because if we split the vote, we lose the election. And I've seen that happen too many times. And that's why there needs to be a two-pronged approach to these endorsements that the local party makes. Vet them on the issues. On behalf of the voters you are sworn to represent, because you're a membership organization. Your members are registered Republicans, and they're relying on you to do the good housekeeping seal of approval. The other thing you need to do, though, is check with your coalition partners to make sure that we're all in behind the same candidate. And if we're not, let's see if we can get to an agreement there.
Hey, if you want to avoid expensive repair bills, make sure you get a regular maintenance for your AC and heat system. The regular price for AC tune-ups is ranging from $70 to $250. Well, guess how much it is for Gun Owner Radio listeners? $17.76. Why? Well, because we've got a deal with Straight Shooter AC. They'll do a 15-point tune-up for a ridiculous price of $17.76. Why is this price so low? Well, because they have a heart for the people in our community. Just straight up honest service you can trust. Call Straight Shooter Heating and Cooling today at 619-922-3937 for your $17.76 AC tune-up. No bull, just cool.
Yeah.
Or book online at straightshooter.ac. That's straightshooter.ac.
Yeah, I jumped in there on the end, but I really want everybody, if you have a heater or an air conditioner in your house and you haven't called these guys yet, what are you doing?
Be proactive. Don't be reactive.
$17.76, and they come out and do a tune-up. Straight Shooter's absolutely wonderful. They've been great to the show. So spend the $17.76 so that you don't have to spend a whole bunch later because you didn't service your heater or AC. Mm-hmm. And then, weather's changing, so now's the time. Okay, subscribe and win. If you subscribe to our email list, you might win some swag. This week's winner is Martina. Is that Pogenpole?
You're asking me.
Yeah, Pogen. Gosh, Martina, I hope I got your name somewhere near right. Congratulations, Martina. All you got to do is email prizes@gunownersradio.com to claim your T-shirt or your hat. If you want a T-shirt, by the way, Martina, let us know what size. That'll guarantee success. So, Lead Talks tomorrow. Jamie Franks, Active Shooter Defense School. Lead Talks is our attempt at bringing a bunch of really cool information about firearms instructors to you. It streams live over Gun Owners Radio's Facebook page, over Gun Owners Radio's YouTube channel, and over Gun Owners Radio's X channel. So join the live stream tomorrow at 3. Tomorrow only is at 3 o'clock. We need to get Jamie on early, so it's tomorrow at 3 p.m., not 7 p.m., 3 p.m. Jamie Franks is a fellow Red Dawn fan and a fantastic guy, and he's going to be a wonderful talk. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Jamie has to say. Couple other things coming up. First is Intro to Modern Off-Grid Communications class. That's coming up October 19th, 2024. Alicia, you going to that?
I wish I could. My son's getting married that day.
Oh,
yeah, I'll
man.
be a little bit busy.
Yeah. Maybe you could ham in.
Maybe.
You could ham in and say, hey, here I am at the wedding. Sign up at gunownersradio.com. Again, it's Modern Off-Grid Communications, October 19th, 2024, taught by our own John Baldwin. He's a board member of San Diego County Gun Owners, a great guy. Students get an 11% discount on used guns and ammo thanks to American Shooters in El Cajon. So if you sign up for this class by going to gunownersradio.com and take the class on October 19th, 2024, you will get an 11% discount on all used guns and all ammo thanks to American Shooters, which is where it's being held. But of course, you have to register first. The other thing, Carl, we haven't even talked about, I'm embarrassed.
Tuesday's event.
We're going to have a VP debate watch party at the movie theater in Mission Valley. Geez, I don't have the info in front of me.
Ultrastar Cinema.
There you go.
Go to reformcalifornia.org, click under events, or just go to join Carl, CARL.org. And it is October 1st. Doors open 5 o'clock. Program begins 5:30. Debate with vice presidential candidates J.D. Vance and the communist. That starts at 6 p.m. And it's stadium seating. Movie theater, real fun.
Popcorn.
Yeah, people can buy popcorn, drinks, and all that other good stuff. But
happy hour discount, so you can actually come down, have a glass of wine, have a beer, hoop and holler, and have fun with us. And you're going to talk about Prop
36, which is designed to deal with the crime wave in California. But you do need to buy a ticket. There's only about 50 tickets left, so please do purchase the ticket. All proceeds go to supporting Yes on 36 and helping us pay for the fact that we've got the movie theater.
I haven't been on a press event, 6 months, 7 months?
Yeah.
And I'm leaving Monday and coming back Wednesday.
Oh, you're going to miss it?
How could you do that?
We would have given you a VIP ticket. We're selling the VIP tickets, which have the best view.
Wow.
I'll tell you what, I'll call JD. I'll get it changed to the next night.
I'll be there then.
We're tight like that.
I know you.
I think it's going to be a cool event. You
Yes.
know, it's like I said, it's a VP watch party. We're going to show the debate up on the big screen. We're going to learn about this new proposition. We're not going to go into details here. You got to come to the event to learn more about it, or just go to Reform California. You know, San Diego County Gun Owners.
People can get the San Diego County Gun Owners Voter Guide. They can get Reform California's Plain English Voter Guide. Obviously, Second Amendment endorsements are on the Gun Owners Voter Guide. Ours are Second Amendment Plus. We covered all the propositions, plain English, so that you know what you're voting on, because the politicians are putting deceptive titles on everything. Plus, we found 35 tax hikes hidden on the San Diego County ballot. And the typical voter will have 2 to 3 to maybe 4 of those tax hikes hidden on their ballot. You can only uncover the hidden tax hikes by looking at the voter guide. You can get it online at reformcalifornia.org, or again, come Tuesday, October 1st to the debate watching party.
It's a good opportunity for us to partner. It's a great opportunity. You know, we don't take a stance on tax issues, but we do partner with
unless
other
they're gun tax.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah, we definitely took a position on that 11% tax.
Yep.
And we're very supportive of the lawsuit that will hopefully get rid of that 11% tax.
Well, and I need to jump in here as a layman and somebody that just, without a voter guide, I am lost. I'm just telling you straight up.
Yeah.
I rely on yours, and I rely on yours. Because if you don't rely on these two voter guides, folks, you could make the biggest mistake you could ever make. Because you're right. Just the thought that they bury stuff.
Yep.
And they make yes mean no, and no means yes. And, you know, you got to have a degree in English to figure out what the heck they're talking about, which I think is totally illegal.
They're hiding a partial repeal of Prop 13 to make it easier to raise taxes.
Right.
You know what title they put on it? Affordable housing.
How do they get away with that?
Because might makes right. We have sued them at the Supreme Court of California, and the Supreme Court of California has said, well, if you don't like your ballot titles, get better politicians. Well, I don't like your damn judgment, so I think we should get better justices.
Absolutely.
So it's actually an increase. It would end up being an increase on the amount of taxes you pay on your house.
Basically,
in a lot of cases,
it lowers the threshold for approving these property tax hikes from 2/3 to 55%. And they don't tell the voters what Prop 5 actually is. They hide it behind affordable housing, and everyone wants to make housing more affordable, but this is going to actually make housing more expensive.
Well, what about car insurance? I just paid my car insurance. I've got more cars than I need. Last year to this year, each car And
Yeah.
3 of them don't move. They don't move, but I
Right.
put insurance on them. $300
Yeah.
per car.
Yeah.
How many cars do you have?
18.
You have 18 cars.
Don't start with me.
Listen, I'm
you need a
thankful.
car?
Yeah, I know.
You need a car? I'm hurts.
I go and kick the tires, and
And it's got air conditioning.
it's got great air conditioning.
Both of them that I've loaned you.
Yeah,
I know.
so I'm thankful. I'm not criticizing at all.
I'm better than Del Mar.
I'm in awe. And by the way, so far, Jeep's running
Shouldn't have
just
said a
fine.
word. You
I know.
should not have said a word.
Shout out.
But
to
I
my-
mean, I'm just saying, and they didn't even notify me. It's
Yep.
just like I put
Price
4 of them-
gouging.
I put 4 of them on non-op for Christ's sakes.
You know, when Gavin Newsom stands up at a press conference and says, "I'm going after the price gougers," I want to send him a full, floor-to-ceiling mirror and say, "Here you go, buddy."
Yeah, here it is, right here. You're the gouger. Go ahead. I know you're all fired up. Your hair's changing color.
Not yet.
Are you coming to the? What about the VP debate party? You coming?
I will be there.
Good. It'll be fun.
Excellent.
She's a hostess.
Everybody come. Go check it out online. Again, the link is
Go to joincarl.org. It goes right to our event page, joincarl.org. That's CARL, joincarl.org. And remember, only 50 tickets are left, so
Right.
please buy your tickets.
And it's going to be a
ASAP.
comedy show, right?
I think that Waltz is going to. The guy is cuckoo.
Think
all
he's gonna
He is a
implode?
far leftist. I think he's not going to do very well, but we'll see. I mean, that's why we have debate parties, and we expect local media there, and it should be a
interesting.
real fun time. By the way, I do want to talk about the joint report that our policy
Okay,
group
let's go
and
to a commercial.
Second,
Yeah.
the Not Me
Yep.
California
Since
put
you're
out.
not on radio anymore, you don't know what breaks are. Let me help you out. See the clock? See?
Well, I know. I knew that we were going
But
to
you
break.
never stayed on
I was
time
teasing.
anyway.
I was teasing.
Yeah, but you never stayed on time.
I was
anyway.
giving you a tease.
You broke when you wanted to break, right?
Oh, I drove my director
Yes,
completely
you
batty.
did. Yes,
Yeah.
you did. Hey, Not Me is for women, by women, and is designed to help women with training, purchasing a gun, and getting a concealed carry permit. And guess what? It's free. If you're a woman or you know a woman who needs help, have her sign up, and we will give her all the help she needs. And to sign up, just go to notmesd.org.
Yeah, Desi was at the.
Was she there too?
She was there,
Yep,
and
she's
she's. I think right now she is filming her riding shotgun with Charlie.
Yeah.
Which,
Oh, good.
We'll be able to see. I don't know when. Probably take about a few weeks for him to edit it down and everything.
Yeah.
So Carl, you have a lot of irons in the fire. You have a lot of different arms of politics and other influential orgs that you're a part of. We partnered with, so this was Not Me California, partnered with the Transparency Foundation to produce a report.
Yep.
Tell people what exactly is the Transparency Foundation?
So, if you want to affect change, you can do it through campaigns. So San Diego County Gun Owners is a campaign committee.
Yeah.
Reform California is a campaign committee. We get to go out and say vote for and vote against candidates and propositions and whatnot. But another way that you can affect change is through 501c3 policy organizations. It allows your donors to get a tax write-off, which is great. Now, what it means is that the work you do has to be policy research. You can do watchdog reports. You can do voter education on issues, but not taking positions on candidates and ballot measures. And we do a lot of candidate training through the 501c3. So we discovered that a lot of the things that we do are not political and should be done through a 501c3, and therefore allows for tax write-offs for our donors, whereas campaign contributions are not something you can write off on your taxes. Now, the one thing that we do differently is we don't take government money. It's a policy of the foundation. We could, but we choose not to because we want people to know when we either criticize government or give a thumbs up, it's simply because our supporters have supported us in our mission. And so, several months ago, we were talking about just how the media in California doesn't do any fact checking on the left-wing groups that are out there. And we found that the Giffords Foundation, the Giffords Law Center, the Giffords gun grabbing group, they would come out with this scorecard each year saying, here are the safest states to live in. And wow, look at gun control is the common thread. Gun control means you're going to be in a safer state. And they made California one of their safest states. I'm like, blank, please. I mean, we all know there's a crime wave. The violent crime is way up. So we decided jointly to fund a research team to go and deep dive on their data, to really truth test their methodology. And it didn't take long before we realized their whole scorecard is bogus. It is BS. It is absolutely false. Their own data sets prove that there is no correlation between gun control and crime or safety. And in fact, the states with the most stringent gun control, surprise, surprise, have some of the highest increases in violent crime. They also cooked the books by saying, well, we're going to include suicides in the definition of a gun fatality. And so all these things were uncovered by our research team, showing that their methodology is corrupt. Now, the reason why this is key is not only does it educate the public that they cannot trust the false narrative that gun control equals a safer society, but more importantly, the Giffords Group cites their so-called research, which is bogus, in filing lawsuits and filing pleadings before the court. So the court's looking at this pleading saying, well, look, the Giffords Law Center cites this nonprofit group over here. It's the same damn group. The Giffords Law Center is an alter ego to the corrupt, dishonest Giffords public policy group. And so we felt it was necessary to deep dive and really get to the bottom of their methodology and expose the rot. And we did that. And the report is on both of our websites, California.
Notmeca.org.
Notmeca.org and thetransparencyfoundation.org. Click under reports and share it, because it's a real eye-opener. And every time the Giffords methodology is cited by a reporter, we should follow up with the reporter and say, well, you ran a story, but the next time you ever cite these people, at least let them know that there is substantial criticism and disagreement about their methodology. It's bogus.
No, by the way, another example, let's talk more about the report, but I also want to point out this is another example, or a perfect example, of how you've been super helpful to our organizations and me and everybody that cares about our cause. Without asking for anything in return. You came to me and just said, hey, we're thinking about doing this. Let's do it together. Let's both benefit from it. Let's both make good things happen with doing this report. And no one has, nobody else out there is doing that kind of thing for San Diego County gun owners, or not me, or any of the organizations that Gun Owners Radio or anything like that. You didn't ask for anything in return.
Nope.
You just said, hey, you know what? This is good for voters, or good for your followers. This is good for the organizations. This is good work. We want you to be a part of it, and I thank you for that.
The more groups like yours that are out there fighting on the freedom agenda and building infrastructure and recruiting members and deploying members for the fight for freedom in California, the more that happens, the more I achieve my mission of trying to rebalance the political structure in this state. And have some, better people elected. So I wish more Republicans would put up or shut up. And again, I'm looking at a lot of politicians who are out there and they talk the big game, but I want all of you to ask the handful of Republicans left, what have you done to recruit volunteers to support center-right organizations? What have you done to recruit candidates and support candidates and fight bad ballot measures and support good ballot measures? If they don't have a whole laundry list of things that they've done, tell them you're not going to support them in the future, because we don't need seat warmers. We need fighters. We need people who are going to be part of building up the entire team. And too many of these politicians are just looking at their own political future rather than looking at how do they build up the team.
Well, I thank you for the help on it. I thought it was very well received. A lot of people gave some great positive feedback on it, and I think it was both eye-opening and reaffirming. Some people, wow, I had no idea that the other side was reporting that kind of, false information. Yep. Eye-opening, and then reaffirming, like, yeah, exactly.
I
right.
knew they were lying.
I knew
all
or they clearly don't know what they're talking about. Well, like some of the standards, like the use of the term assault weapon is, is an evil, pejorative, politically driven, term. But what stood out in the report for you? Anything in particular that you?
Just how easy it was for the research investigators to get to the conclusion that these Giffords lied.
Yeah.
Okay, when you put out a false narrative and you put the big headlines on a report and the big subtitles on the report and you go on TV saying, yeah, our data shows this, and you look at the data and it shows absolutely the opposite, the people they're liars and scammers. Frankly, I think they literally should be investigated for donation fraud, because if they're telling their donors they're doing good work and they're actually not doing it, most of us would consider that consumer fraud.
Did they respond after the report?
Of course
came
not.
out?
No, and the media, of course, wants to play it down. But the reality is this: when you got the receipts, and we use their own data sets to disprove their headlines and their reports. And there's some snark in the report that I kind of liked, sort of like, yeah, I wonder how the ban on, these long arm rifles will reduce suicides. I mean, you just look at it and say, of course it's not going to reduce suicides, but they're going to say that, if we ban those high capacity magazines for ammo, well, by golly, we're going to reduce suicides.
Yeah.
I don't think high capacity magazines are going to have any impact when it comes to suicides.
Which is just atrocious that they'd even. I mean, it's funny because it's so stupid, but it's atrocious that they would use such a tragic thing as suicide.
Yes,
to try to
pad
advance
their numbers, to pad their numbers,
try to advance their existing anti-gun agenda, which is really all it is. And I think there was actually a couple weeks ago, one of our board members was giving a presentation to a ladies group. And they wanted to know more about the Second Amendment. They wanted to know more about the state of affairs when it comes to guns in California. And I sent him the report, and I said, hey, you know what? There's a lot of resources here that you can include. And he was very thankful, and he used that report. I think that's one really good use for a report like this. If you're wondering, like, all right, well, I'm going to go read it, and it's interesting, and it makes me feel good, but what do I do with it? Well, using it as a resource to talk to others, especially those that are on the fence or they don't know really what to believe yet, using a report like this to show, hey, look, they're not even being honest. Before you even try to form an opinion, you at least got to know they're not even being honest.
Yeah.
But how would you recommend if somebody's out there thinking, all right, after I read the report, what do I do, Carl? How do I use this report?
Well, I think they should read it because it really gives them some of the basic talking points when they're arguing with that neighbor or their friend or a family member over Thanksgiving dinner. Yes, it happens. So that you actually can say, here are the data points. No one's going to read a report cover to cover. I mean, it's important to give people, if they want to read it, they can, draw some of these data points out. But really, the report, I think, the best constituency are the legislators who cite the garbage from Giffords and the reporters who report the garbage from Giffords without any sort of truth testing. Those people are obliged to read the report because they're citing the crap. And so that's why I'm going to love in the legislature when they bring up gun control and they start citing Giffords, I'm going to say, hello, right over here. I'm going to bring it over to your desk. I'm going to put it right on your desk because you just cited a group that has a bogus methodology. You've introduced a bogus methodology into the debate, into the official record to justify your stupid bill. And so before you start saying that this report or this group is to be relied on, do your damn research and respond to the methodological weaknesses here.
Right. Oh, wait, we did it for you. Here it is.
Yeah.
Here's the honesty. I got to tell you, that's one thing. I never have to reach for the truth. I never have to do all kinds of gyrations to make my point. When you're right, which we are on the Second Amendment, the case is just
the data's there.
It's just right there. We're the good guys. We're the ones that are doing, being honest about it and doing things right. And this report is an important first step in really, really not just saying that we're right or saying that, hey, we're honest, but proving it. Actually saying, hey, here it is right here. Here's the proof positive. Numbers don't lie.
Hey, if you're a business owner and feel like you're wasting money on your marketing, it's probably because you are not talking to your customer in a way that they understand. A lot of companies waste money on marketing because they just don't have the words that make customers want to buy. So that's why you should give Sage Tree a call. They are a San Diego certified story brand guide. Story is the oldest form of communication, and Sage Tree can help you grow your business. Getting started is super easy. Visit sagetree.com. Click on the schedule an appointment button now.
So I got to go to gun policy, the gun Gun Rights Policy Conference. I always get it wrong.
That's it.
And they let me speak, and it was suggested that I talk about our success with CCWs and the previous sheriff, which I gave that talk. But I wanted to quickly thank Matthias Quallenberg, who's a big fan of the show, a friend of the show. We've interviewed him. And the reason I'm thanking him is, I don't know if you remember. Do you remember, Dave? A few weeks ago, I was like, "Hey, I hope they do a wave when I go up and talk."
Yeah,
like at
Yeah,
a,
we
so
did.
didn't.
so he organized a wave. I'm standing up there. They only give you 15. They only gave me 15 minutes, and they're like, "You got 15 minutes. That's it."
Yeah.
So I'm like, and I start trying. And he goes, "Wait," and I'm like, "I got 15 minutes," and he's like, "Wait," and boom. Next thing I know, they're doing a wave across it, which I really appreciate.
And then you got a trophy.
Yeah, I was really appreciative of that. That was very cool. And he goes, "Well, I wanted to prove I listened to the show." So they did talk. Was one of the speakers talked about how the Supreme Court, there's that Thomas is waiting for a Republican president to appoint, or before he steps down, because he wants somebody to appoint or appointed who agrees with him, who looks at the law the way he looks at law. Well, he's not going to last 8 years. There's no way that Justice Thomas is going to be able to hang out for 8 years waiting for a Republican. So if you're wondering, gee, I'm on the fence about Trump, I don't know. I got to tell you, Carl, you were talking about it before. The big reason we've made huge strides in Second Amendment is because of the judges appointed by Trump, and it's extremely important. So
Not just on the Supreme Court, but also the Ninth
Circuit, yeah,
Court of Appeals.
So did you hear the number of gun owners that are not registered?
Yeah, it's like 10 million. So let me talk about that for 2 seconds. So there's a lot of talk about that.
registered to vote.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about a gun registered.
No. To vote.
Oh, to vote, registered vote.
There's-
And a lot of them don't vote
They
who are
need to
registered.
vote. They need
to vote. And well, it's just that, you know what it is? I'll sum it up real quick, and then I want to talk about, Trump and the federal races and see what your thoughts are. So there's like 10 million people, 10 million gun owners that aren't registered to vote, and about 500,000 of them are here in California, which as a percentage is kind of low, to be honest with you. I mean, some of the other states that have a fraction of the population of California had almost as many gun owners that weren't registered. What it is, you got to remember, there are gun owners out there who don't really identify as a gun owner. They got a shotgun when they were a kid. It sits in the closet, and they don't really shoot. They're not engaged in Second Amendment, and oh, by the way, they don't vote. We've done a really good job of making sure everybody we possibly can is registered to vote, and it's important. But I wanted to kind of paint the picture and talk about why that number is so high. But let's talk about the federal race. Carl, what do you think? It looks to me like there are just a couple of paths for Trump. He
has more paths than Harris.
Okay, so talk about it. It looks like he has to get Nevada and like Wisconsin. Or has to get Pennsylvania.
He needs to get better Secret Service agents. Let's start with that. Okay?
Yeah, really.
That's what he needs
to make it to the finish line.
He needs that because look, here's the deal. This country has seen the difference between Trump's policies, with a secure border, a robust economy, a world stage that had to at least behave because they feared Trump, and I think many of them, deep down inside, even though they mocked him, respected him. And so the 4 years that he did so many good things for this country, it all got undone in so many ways. And we've dealt with all of the bad impacts of that for the last 4 years. You need your damn head examined if you want 4 more years of this absolute insanity. God. And so I don't care if you don't like his tweets. Here's the thing. I have a family member who, she's a Republican. It's my sister. She's a business owner. She absolutely, understands that the Democrats have ruined this state with crime, and she doesn't like the open border and human trafficking and the high cost of regulation, crushing her business and all these things. She says, I don't like Trump. He's a racist, and I don't like his tweets. I say, well, first, you're wrong. But second, you're not setting him up on a date with your daughter. And, the other thing is, the reality will be whether he wins or not, he's still going to be tweeting after Election Day. So you're still going to have to deal with the tweets. You might as well get the benefit of the great policies. Now, I actually think Trump is hilarious. I think that
Me too.
I think he's a funny guy. I think people are so taking him so seriously when he kind of ribs at people. He's a New York developer. It's like Grandpa. Grandpa can sometimes kind of give you a hard time, pull your leg. He doesn't. It's not that he doesn't love you. It's not that he's not a good guy. He's just a little rough around the edges. So I think some of these people out there are sitting there saying, "Oh well, but this, that, and the other thing." At the end of the day, his policies are so superior for this country. So when I talk to people who may be on the fence or not wanting to vote for Trump, I always bring the conversation back to the bottom line issues that will impact you each and every day. And if you're annoyed with his tweets, I guarantee you he's going to continue to tweet after the election, whether he's president or not. So in terms of what's going on,
the tweets aren't going away.
I don't believe that the polls actually are capturing the real depth of his support.
Yeah.
I am in close contact with a number of key people in the inner circle at the Trump campaign. I know a lot of the people who are running the campaigns in the swing states. Things are looking very good. All the data underneath the hood, if I may borrow Dave Stahl's analogies, under the hood, the data is looking amazing.
Right.
Because when you look at component groups, Trump is overperforming where he was in 2020, dramatically overperforming 2016. He's overperforming amongst African Americans, amongst Latinos, amongst even women. And when you then take a look at Harris, she's underperforming where Biden was in 2020. Now, she's doing slightly better than Biden in June.
Right.
I mean, come on. Like, a comatose person would be doing better, although that's not different than what Biden is. But when you look at the fundamentals, he's in a very good position. Now, we still have a month to go. Anything can happen. My biggest concern is the deep state. My biggest concern are the wingnuts that are putting his life in jeopardy because now it's happened twice. Don't tell me for a moment that something happens twice. No one knew that he was out there on that golf course. Unless someone on the inside.
Knew.
And so this is abhorrent. And I'm very concerned for the stability of our country. And I don't think that the people who would do harm to Trump care about the stability of our country. And again, that gets back to why we have a Second Amendment.
Kennedy. Nobody cared there either.
Well,
I mean, really, when you come right down to it.
when you come right down to it, he's got to make it through this election. He's got to get sworn in. And he's got a clean house. I think that Trump 2.0 is going to be far more effective because he trusted some of these swampy people from the Bush administration who said, "Oh, we'll staff these departments. We'll get the job done.
You don't even need to worry about it.
Don't worry about it." And these people knifed him every second. Members of Congress knifed him when they said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll get the border security funding. We'll do this, that, and the other thing." And they didn't follow through. So back to the Supreme Court. I do believe that Justice Thomas will likely retire in a Trump administration, that will get an exceptionally good judge confirmed in his place. His service has been wonderful and remarkable to this country. I also believe that one of the liberals will probably end up vacating one way or another their seat.
Which
and there's only three of them
to
left.
allow him to have another liberal?
No. Under
Trump.
Not all
you're just going to have to.
Oh, that's right.
Two of those liberals do not have very good health, and so is it possible they'll go through all 4 years potentially?
Two of them. Wait. Which two? You got Sotomayor. You got Kagan. You got
and then you've got Brown Jackson, but Kagan and Sotomayor do have health problems. Sotomayor more pronounced. So you don't know, and no one wishes someone ill.
Of course not.
Right. But
if they're going to go,
there's a
I'd
chance.
rather Trump be in there to replace them. I mean,
there is a chance. And so, I'm not terribly excited about one of our justices on the Supreme Court, Roberts, because he has not been a consistent.
No, he has not.
Well, and
so you need extra. You need a couple extra. Thomas has always been a very reliable vote on most items,
especially on the Second Amendment. But not just the Supreme Court, like you were saying, but the Ninth Circuit. Judge Benitez wants to go fishing and retire and be done with. And the Ninth Circuit has changed significantly thanks to Trump. Significantly, but it could be improved even more.
Yes, and so I'm excited. I'm also excited about a Trump administration for the leverage it will give us here in California. I intend to make sure that we dialogue with the Trump administration on all these issues. I cannot wait for for Trump's new border chief to take office. I suspect he's quite familiar to all of us.
I think I know that guy's name.
I won't say anything more. But he and I have been talking, and we have some really good ideas on how to immediately affect law and order at the border here in the San Diego sector. San Diego sector is now the #1 border crossing in the country, and it's because we are a sanctuary state.
Right.
You know, we have the same stupid federal policies that they have in Texas, but they have a governor that's doing his job and putting the National Guard down at the border, and they're not dangling free welfare handouts to entice people to come across. But here in California, we're a sanctuary state. We're giving the free welfare handouts out in record amounts, and unless we change that policy, we're not going to change the border situation here in San Diego sector.
I know you know a lot of folks that work with his campaign or are around him. I know you have relationships with talk to people that are around him and have been and worked for his administration. Have you ever met him personally?
Yes.
Have you?
He's phenomenal.
I was going to say
phenomenal, engaging.
Did you get to talk to him a little bit?
Well, we were with a group of people, but this is a guy who. He does not need this job.
That's right.
This is a sacrifice for him.
Totally.
He's put his life on the line twice now. And this guy just wants what's best for our country. And I can't say that about a whole lot of politicians.
Well, the left
these
can't
days.
handle that. They don't want best for this country.
Well, he also is someone who doesn't roll over like most feckless Republicans who basically are afraid of being criticized by the media and afraid of, the Democrats criticizing him.
He still calls them the worst.
Wear it with a badge of honor. When they're attacking you, that means that you absolutely are over the target and you are doing the right thing.
I do think that's one thing that the media has done that he has undone or is undoing is they've kind of promoted this whole idea of like, look, you can't be mean to the media. We're like this noble. We're noble.
We're journalists. He has unmasked the fact that they are absolutely biased, unreliable, corrupt, wrong, agenda-driven.
But if anyone who thinks otherwise hasn't actually dealt with the media.
No,
I know you have.
Oh, yes.
I have to a lesser extent. And I'll tell you right now, the ability, having the media on its heels, a little bit afraid, is a very good thing. If they're untouchable, that is, that's
what's
not,
beautiful is that the media has
slit
slit their own throat.
Yep.
Because the advertisers and the viewers and the subscribers and the listeners, they have gone away, and they're going to their own platforms now. And I think that the market has corrected it, but these woke groups, these woke companies continue to double down on not doing their job, and they're putting themselves out of business. All these big media companies are suffering because they've broken trust.
And by the way, before we're going to go to a break here, we're going to ask, we're going to try to stump my nephew.
Okay.
What website do you want folks to go to?
They can go to reformcalifornia.org. It has all of our policy issues up there, but most importantly, it has our voter guide. So when you go to reformcalifornia.org, click under voter help, and you can look up our voter guide. San Diego electionguide.org will take you directly to the San Diego page, San Diego electionguide.org. But that is our main hub and website. I have my own Carl DeMaio page, but it basically is it's basically a mudroom into Reform California.
I thought it was a cooking show.
And while you're on Reform's website, buy some tickets and come watch the debate party.
Yes, October 1st.
50 left.
Doors open at 5 o'clock. Program starts at 5:30. Debate starts at 6.
Seal 1 gets compared to Frog Lube a lot. Well, they are different, very different. With Frog Lube, you need a degreaser solvent, a lubricant, and a protectant. So how many different types of Frog Lube do they make? Well, it's just too much and way more work than it needs to be. So with Seal 1, it's one and done. Wipe it on, wipe it off, and you're done. Buy some today. That's at seal1.com.
All right. So that was Carl DeMaio.
See, now you can tell he loves radio.
Yeah, he does. Like I said, he's been extremely supportive of the organizations and the cause, and he really, truly hasn't asked for anything in return. He's done nothing but think of ideas that will be helpful to us. He hasn't asked for anything in return. He hasn't asked for anything in return.
I worry about him sometimes.
Really? What's the worry?
Well, he turns over a lot of rocks and shakes a lot of trees. If you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah. I think he'll be all right.
Well, with today's environment, I don't know.
I think he'll be all right. We'll just say there are things he has in place. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
And we'll move on.
He's got Alicia.
Okay. Okay, it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Stump My Nephew. Sam, you there?
Yeah, how are you guys?
Good, man. How are you?
Not a problem in the world.
Where do you live?
Yeah, no kidding.
Virginia.
How's the weather back there?
Well, I'm far enough east that it's not too bad. We just had 3 days of gloomy, crappy skies, but I consider myself very, very fortunate to be out of the line of fire, as it were.
Yeah, I know.
So the question has to do with SIG, and I had the pleasure of sitting next to
Mr. Sig.
the main guy from SIG. He was actually very friendly, very nice to talk to. He was very supportive of some of the lawsuits that Second Amendment Foundation is doing. Very well spoken, and it was a pleasure talking to SIG. And they said, by the way, a question I asked Sam, I said, hey, now that we have like the 365 on the roster, did you guys notice a spike in sales? Like, was it actually noticeable? And he said, oh my gosh, yes. Thousands, something like 10,000 additional units sold because California, the California market opened up. Which I got to tell you is a point I've made many times to business organizations. And they're like, we're a business organization. We're not a gun organization. Therefore, we're not going to get involved. Well, when they're stopping the business of guns, it is a business issue. So anyway. Okay. This is, here. Alicia's going to read you the question.
All right. Here's your question, Sam. You ready?
I hope so.
All right. So this comes from Frank from National City. And his question is, what lets the SIG MCX fire with the stock folded?
Frank from so-called National City. And I have to say so-called because I was under the impression that there was only one National City, and it's about 50 miles north of me. But I won't go there. What allows the SIG Sauer MCX to fire with the stock folded? Really, a different way to ask this question is, why can't AR platform rifles fire with the stock folded? Asking the negative instead of the positive. For those of you who are not, who might be listening, who are maybe less acquainted with armorer level work on AR-15, AR-10 type rifles, or who just aren't super familiar with the platform, it has a buffer system inside the stock. There's what we call a buffer tube or receiver extension, which contains the action spring, and it contains a buffer, which has some weights in it and a little plastic tip at the rear end. Now, because of that, any type of folding adapter for an AR-type rifle necessarily basically breaks the receiver in half. So you can't fire the firearm with the stock folded because the recoil spring is out of line with the bolt carrier. It would cause problems. The MCX, like probably most other semi-automatic rifle designs out there, has its recoil assembly contained entirely within what visually externally appears to be the receiver. There's nothing inside the stock. So you can fire it with the stock folded or with no stock or whatever you may desire, much like an AK, much like a G36, for example, much like a wide variety of other firearms that are not set up that way. Interestingly, the FN-FAL also has its recoil assembly in the stock, but they made folding stock FALs. How did they do it? The receiver is different. It actually does not use the same components. There's less parts interchangeability between folding stock and fixed stock FALs. They have a different receiver that has a recoil assembly inside of it.
All right. What do we got? What's the answer?
He absolutely got it.
He
But
nailed it.
here's the written answer. He
Correct.
That's it. So just the written answer is the SIG MCX uses a piston-driven recoil system that eliminates the need for a buffer tube, unlike traditional AR platforms. This allows the MCX to fire with the stock folded, making it versatile for close quarter combat and confined spaces.
Do you think that idea, do you think that design will ever overtake the traditional AR design, Sam?
Well, two things. First, I would like to make a tiny distinction. The fact that it uses an external piston has no bearing on the way the recoil assembly is set up. It's just that many external piston systems have a self-contained recoil assembly. The HK416 is a piston gun, but you can't fire it with the stock folded. Second, will the MCX ever overtake the AR-15? I don't think so, and this isn't to denigrate the mechanical design, because mechanically, as far as I'm aware, it should be perfectly fine. The thing is that the AR-15, AR-10 platform has such a huge home field advantage that for something to overtake it and completely replace it in military use, and especially on the civilian market, it can't be, I don't know how you want to quantify better, but it can't be 10% better. It has to be completely revolutionary to overtake the advantage of having a huge, enormous supply of spare parts, of tools, of manufacturing equipment, of people who know how to work on the platform, and so on and so forth. So it's not to say the MCX is not better than an AR, or even if an MCX was the same price as a comparable quality AR-15, that wouldn't be a better value. It's just to say that there's that huge built-in home field advantage. If the MCX had come first, then no, maybe the AR-15 would not have overtaken it, but that's a counterfactual. It's hard to say.
Well, that's a good way of putting it, the home field advantage. And you're right. It's got to be significantly different, significantly better. There's got to be a significantly bigger advantage. And it's nice to be able to fold the stock, but you're right. It's not, it's not something that, you use every shot you take, but it's still super cool. I'd buy a SIG MCX.
Yeah. I'm curious, is there, functionally, is there anything, let's say, recoil-wise or maybe reliability, is there a disadvantage to the MCX or to that platform? I don't know. I'm not aware of a disadvantage, but that doesn't mean that there is not some distinct flaw with the platform. I'm just not really aware of one. Okay.
Nice. All right, my friend. Awesome job. You got it correct. That means they don't get a special gift. They just get a hat or a shirt. But thank you for sending the question. So awesome job, Sam. Thank you so much. Hey, I wanted to fit in before the end of the show here that Cargo, again, 423 Broadway in El Cajon, this just in. If you mention Gun Owners Radio, you're going to get 10% off your purchase. So go to Cargo, buy some of their cool stuff, 423 Broadway in El Cajon, a case or whatever they have on sale. They have a lot of really cool stuff. And if you mention Gun Owners Radio, you're going to get a 10% discount. And again, welcome, Cargo, to Gun Owners Radio. And thank you so much for your support. All right, man, that was a good show.
It's absolutely the best.
What do you say, Super Dave?
I just got an email that says Waste Management will only take recyclable that they get money for, or they're going to charge you $26.25 for having plastic bags in the recycle bin.
What?
And that's a letter from Waste Management.
You know how much time I'm going to spend on that?
About an hour.
About zero.
Come on.
I can't. It's unbelievable, the ridiculousness that goes on, the waste of time. There's so many things that are just a silly, petty waste of time here in California. I got to tell you, if there was really something, if I could do something different and it really significantly changed the outcome of anything, like if there was some kind of true positive effect, I'd totally do it. Yeah. But this whole bag issue is so ridiculous. You got me started.
Think of all the other plastic that everything's packaged in. Everything comes in freaking plastic. But yeah.
Don't get a plastic bag. Don't get a paper bag. Go down to Cargo. get a container. Get a big, huge container, and that's what you should use.
I like it with wheels.
I'll be there tomorrow morning buying mine.
I'm sure you will. We have no doubt. You'll probably be waiting there at 4 in the morning.
Send you a picture.
Send me a picture.
There were like 8 things where I was just like, oh, I've been meaning to buy one of those. Oh,
and by the way, thank you, Alicia, for my WD-40. I don't have any idea what that meant.
Thanks for watching this episode from Gun Owners Radio. If you're watching mainstream media, you're not getting the truth about guns and the Second Amendment. Gun Owners Radio is the easiest way to stay on top of the Second Amendment fight, the fight for your self-defense rights. You can watch our live stream on YouTube every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, or if you're in San Diego, AM 1170, FM 96.1, The Answer. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform. Just do a search for Gun Owners Radio and you'll find our show. Don't forget to support our sponsors. Click on the links in the show notes and support the businesses that support your Second Amendment rights. Like and subscribe to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.